I was really interested in learning more about Powassan because when I arrived into the Maine Medical Research Institute, there had been attempts to isolate Powassan from the ticks that had been collected from Maine, but no one had successfully found the virus in the ticks. And so the first thing I did was to set out and say, well, I know it's here, so let's find it.
We're finding these ticks in forests that are invaded by certain plant species. Now, these are tick-associated plant species, and for example, we have Japanese barberry. In these dense thickets of Japanese barberry, you get these ideal temperature and humidity conditions, which allows these ticks to survive and to quest for a blood meal.
We look for the virus by going out and sampling tick populations. So we do tick dragging as well as sampling wildlife. And by testing both the wildlife and the ticks that we collect in the field, we're able to determine that we actually have Powassan in a certain area. And because we usually do a wide area of survey work, we can kind of hone in on very small areas where the virus might be present.
We've started to see increasing numbers of cases. It's still roughly a case a year in Maine of this disease, but in the northeastern U.S., there's been a tenfold increase in cases over the last 20 years or so.
We have certain species of wildlife that help to ramp up the virus in nature, so a lot of the virus stays in one small location at a time.
In mice, 15 minutes of attachment of the tick is enough time to transmit this virus, and that's because the virus actually lives in the salivary glands of the tick, whereas these other agents that we're worried about, like Lyme disease, don't live in the salivary glands, they live in the gut, and it takes time for those bacteria to multiply and get up to the salivary glands and then infect an animal or a human, but not so with Powassan virus.
So we have to look at what is going on ecologically. If things are out of balance, for example, if you have maybe too many white-tailed deer, then you have native vegetation disappearing and you have invasive vegetation coming in, and then you're creating an environment that's better for deer ticks. And it seems to be that the more deer ticks you have, the more pathogens you have.
And so we collected ticks from these areas for 2 years in a row, and we found that, lo and behold, Powassan virus showed up time and time again from the exact same flagging sites, and this would be forest with invasive shrub species underneath.
The purpose of our studies are to understand why it's occurring in Maine, what the background reasons are ecologically that there might be hotspots for this disease, and to understand also the genetic variation of the virus, because we want to understand what strains are most serious and what controls that.